All right. Well, coaches, thank you again for taking the time. We're going to go ahead. We're going to go ahead and get going here. So again, the purpose of this, we're honoring and kind of celebrating, remembering the 10-year anniversary of that incredible Duke Texas A&M game that we had in 2013 in what still at the time was the Chick-Fil-A Bowl. That was the year before we joined the New Year's Six, and they let us bring the peach back into our name. But in 2013, we were still the Chick-fil-A Bowl. For that game, it was the 24th ranked Duke Blue Devils and the 21st ranked Texas A&M Aggies. It was then and still is the highest scoring game in our Bowl's history, with Texas A&M 52, Duke 48, so 100 total points. At the time, that game set 20 bowl records for us. 8 of those records still stand today. So it was an epic offensive performance, 1,202 total yards of offense between the two teams. Neither one of you could stop the other guy, and it was so much fun to watch. As you guys remember, it was Johnny Manziel's last college game. Coach Sumlin, I know you remember that. He was, of course, the offensive MVP of the game, which was earned almost exclusively in the second half. And then Tony Hurd Jr. Was the defensive MVP. Now, all that being said, Coach Cut, Anthony Boone was actually 29 of 45 for 427 yards. So he actually threw for more yards than Johnny did, 3 touchdowns. Johnny Manziel was 30 of 38 for 383 yards and 4 touchdowns. Duke led early. Duke came on out of the gate like crazy. I think, Coach, if I remember right, you guys scored on your first 5 possessions. Is that right?
Yeah, and I thought we were going only to talk about the first half today. Is that right?
Well, that's all you can talk about.
No question. It was a great week. It was a big deal for us to play not just a team like Texas A&M, but the program that Coach Sumlin had built, and the best player in all of college football. Good gosh. You want to talk about fright. I had somebody ask me, said, pregame warm-up, you think he could throw it good? Did you think? I said, I already knew he could throw it good. Yes. There was nothing he did poorly, in my opinion.
Yeah. So Duke led at halftime 38-17. And then after that, Coach Sumlin, you're going to have to tell us what you did on those halftime adjustments, because you outscored Duke 35-10 in the second half. And as everybody remembers, the game basically ended on Tony Hurd Jr.'s 55-yard interception return for a touchdown with about 3.5 minutes to go. And then that was it. So let me start with this.
Well, not really, because Duke drove the ball all the way down the field at the end of the game, and had some opportunities there to really to win the game. So it wasn't really over at that point.
Well, let me start with this, and we'll go back and forth between you guys. Coach Cut, talk a little bit about what you remember about that 2013 Duke team. Talk just real briefly about that season and what that team was. What do you remember about that squad?
Well, they were the Coastal Division champions, and Duke had not won any kind of football championship in decades. And it was just a great locker room, what I remember the most. Anthony Boone ended up being the winningest quarterback in the history of Duke football because he was a winner. And a unique collection of young people, just great memories of times with them off the field. Totally different era. 10 years, you think things have changed a little bit in 10 years. But that was probably one of the group of young men that were so invested in each other. Coach Bryant used to say this, and they were a championship team. They won the Coastal Division championship. He said, when you have a championship team, it's them. It's not going to be about you as a coach. And that's what I remember most about that 2013 Duke team.
Yeah, well said. Coach Sumlin, what about you? What do you remember about that year's Aggies team?
Well, I know that there are a number of guys playing their last football game, and some that were, at the end of their eligibility, and then a few others that had another year of eligibility, but we had some discussions, before the game, before the bowl game, and it's a little different era, where guys didn't opt out, guys, just played the game. I know I kind of figured it out, during that week when, we usually at dinner or for meals, we eat by seniority, and you give the seniors, they get up first and go eat. And when during the night before, when Johnny and Mike Evans got up and ate with the seniors, I knew they're going to be their last game for real, and so is the rest of the team. So, it was an emotional situation, during that time, but a team that I can remember coming off of the year before. It's just a completely different animal in the locker room, because you go from really the hunter to being hunted, with the Heisman Trophy winner coming back, and a team that was very, very unselfish, I thought, because of that, understanding, the talent that was around them, and understanding also the challenge of a Duke football team that we had a lot of respect for. As Coach Cut said, they're coastal champions. Anthony Boone, couldn't say enough about him. Just watching the tape of the year, which turned out to be an outstanding player in the game, and a pro. And so, there was a lot of talent on the field. Things could go either way, and just to your comment, as far as halftime adjustments, it's 10 years later. You can tell the story. The conversation with Johnny was he didn't play very well in the first half. He was very disappointed, and it was his last game. And quite frankly, he said, Coach, I'm stinking it up, and just give me 2 more series. And if I continue to do what I'm doing, just get me out of there and give the young guy a chance and see if he can do better. And and to his credit, he needed a couple more series, and he was back to doing what he does.
Yeah, he definitely turned it around. We can certainly say that. Coach Cut, well, and before again, anybody from the media, if you have a question, just raise your hand, and we'll jump in and let you ask a question of either of the coaches. Coach Cut, you talked about the first half and the fast start that you guys got off to. Talk a little bit about kind of your game plan going in, and how that first half went for Duke.
Well, I think the best thing we did, and we knew we had to do, was throw the ball on time early. And we thought if we could make them defend the field and get it out quickly, we weren't going to hold the football because of their ability to rush the passer. They had those kinds of people, those NFL kind of people. So Anthony did a great job. I thought our coaches had a great plan. When you get the ball out of your hand and you get it quickly to the right people, good things start happening. And then that allowed us to run the ball a little bit. Josh Snead had some success as a back. And I thought our balance in that game early made it very difficult to defend us. And you had to play well offensively, because you knew you were playing with a keg of dynamite on the other side offensively. And I think our players bought into that. They liked the plan. They executed the plan. Things went right quickly. What you can't do is turn the ball over. You can't ever turn it over, but you don't turn it over to a team with the offensive capabilities that Texas A&M had. Don't give them a quicker or an extra possession. And that's ultimately what cost us a chance to win the game. Yeah.
Coach Sumlin, back to you for the second half. Obviously, your first half game plan didn't go exactly the way you drew it up. But yeah, talk about the locker room at halftime and what you guys thought about and how you adjusted and how the second half went for your team.
Well, in games like that, at the end of the year, it can be a lot different, just because, uh, first of all, that particular team had never been in that real type of situation, and um, stunned. It was more of the word in the locker room. But we did have some veteran players that did well. Coach Cut hit it right on the head. They got the ball out quick. Notice he talked about the front seven. He didn't say anything about the back seven. So, I mean, the back half of the defense, and we had to make some adjustments. And when we backed off and didn't pressure as much and got away from man to man, we had less guys in the box, and so it was a real great job by Duke. I mean, they moved the football at will, and as you can't have any more success than scoring on your first 5 possessions, right? And so it was a mad scramble. At halftime, I think again he hit it right on the head. You go back and you look at the stat line. You look at everything, all the numbers. The difference in the game was basically we didn't turn it over, and we got 2 turnovers, and that was probably the difference in the football game. Just the way the ball bounced. We got 2 extra possessions, and we're able to score on one of those, and offensively, and one of them defensively, and one to get us back in the game, and one, as you said, ultimately to win the game on Tony Hurd's interception return. So, it just that's a resilient team. Had been through a lot of different things throughout the whole year, and it was just one heck of a football game. I know that for me and for. Yeah, I know the players retired because the coaches retired too by the time that thing ended.
Yeah. Well, a part of that great comeback was a third quarter play that I'm going to try to show everybody. So bear with me here as I share my screen. And what I'd like to do is we'll watch this together. And then Coach Sumlin, we'll ask you to comment on this, and then we're going to force Coach Cutcliffe to comment on it. So this is Texas A&M's driving the ball here in a little over 10 minutes to go in the third. Still that 38-17 score, and then this happens.
On 2nd and 7. Mandel leaps over a guy still on his feet. Mandel, Labhart. Touchdown, Aggies. He's magic.
Okay, so Coach Sumlin.
Yeah, just like we drew it up.
First of all, what's the name of that play, and what is going through your mind?
Well, I can tell you right now, it was really just a fake bubble screen into the boundary, and it was a stalk and go. The outside receiver is trying to act like he's going to block the corner and go deep. There's a little bubble screen into the boundary. That was Travis Labhart, who had a different concept to the field, of which the receiver to the field missed the signal. He was supposed to run a post, a middle read route to the middle with a release valve coming underneath from the field. Well, they covered the fake screen down the sideline, near the far sideline from that camera angle, and Johnny looked back, and the inside receiver to the field ran the wrong route. So he was going the opposite way. The underneath coverage was there. He started to scramble. That was shut off. And lo and behold, still standing there off the fake bubble screen into the boundary, just standing over there by the numbers was Travis Labhart, and he found him. So basically it's just like we drew it up. How about that?
Well, Kevin, you always told me that was the fake jump by the quarterback that you had designed for years and years, and you knew we would bite on it. Man, I'm sad to hear that it was not orchestrated quite like that.
Yeah, that was that's the way it worked out. So
Well,
go
ahead.
It's unbelievable. No, that was it would be you would say it would be one of his lucky deals, except he had done some similar things like that before on those types of stages, and it really got him going for the whole rest of the second half.
Well, that's exactly what went through my mind. I can remember it like it was yesterday. I'm over there looking, and I closed my eyes after the touchdown, and I said, "Oh no. How did he not go to the ground? Is this something that's going to ignite?" Because it's what I had seen on tape. Okay. All, like you said, wasn't the first time this type of play. And I mean, I got a sick feeling in my stomach. And I also, this is an interesting thing for this to go through my mind. I had called Nick Saban, and I said, I have great respect for as a defensive coach in our preparation. I said, Nick, anything thoughts that you have or anything you saw with Johnny Manziel? He said, did you look at the tape? Us have any thoughts? He said, no, there are no answers. So that flashed through my mind right there. So I'm sitting there thinking of answers. There's no answer for that.
No.
That's him. And unfortunately for us, and fortunately for you guys, in his last game, he put together a highlight reel second half that he doesn't need to show anything else but that second half to be legendary.
Yeah, it was something else. I watched, in preparation for this, I watched the game and again, and just the memories of it. Like you said earlier, Coach, I can still remember that game like it was yesterday. One of the best we've ever seen in our game, and we pride ourselves on having close competitive games in the Peach Bowl, and we just always get those good games. Yeah, you saw our game last year with Georgia and Ohio State. Came down, 1-point game down to the wire, as the clock strikes midnight, playing to go on to the national title. So we that's normal for us, but in a series of normal good games, this game between your two teams stands out as possibly the best we've had, and just incredible. I guess my next question for you guys is, at any point during the game, do you realize that the type of game that you're involved in the moment? Like, do you realize how epically good this football game is while you're in the middle of it? Coach Sumlin, let's start with you.
No, because we're getting our tails beat in the first half. We're just trying to get back in the game. And, as a coach, in my way of thinking, you're always looking at the point differential, right? And for a lot of different reasons, whether you got to go for two, what you're going to kick a field goal, what's the strategy once you get in the red zone, if you can get there. And so the point differential is this might sound crazy, is what you're looking at. And what the situation is. It's a red hot offense. Duke is going up and down the field. We're going to have to score some points. And then what is that point differential? It wasn't until really late in the fourth quarter. In the middle of the fourth quarter, you look up at the scoreboard and you see how many points are up there, because it was, at that point, it became back and forth. We were behind the whole game, just trying to play catch up. And, in my mind, that never really kind of crossed it. It's just more of all right, let's get back in this game any way we can. And then when we get there, what's the point differential until you look up at the end and how many points, how many yards, all these fancy scoreboards. Now there's a lot of numbers up there. You can it can mesmerize you, right? But no, during the game, I never really saw it, but I knew that Duke was playing very, very well, and to try to match that energy, I think as Coach Cutcliffe said, that one play, the building kind of changed for our fans too. It kind of came alive, woke everybody up, and gave us a real shot in the arm because we needed it.
Yeah. Coach Cut, what about you? What as that game is playing out, do you feel the gravity of how good a football that game is? And at what point do you realize that and get to take that in?
Well, the perspective I had, and I think it was due to our start, but let me go back to the preparation. I knew this was a huge and significant football game for Duke football in that point in time. We just come off of losing to Florida State, another great team in the ACC championship team, ultimately the eventual national champions, and played pretty well at half. Kind of sounded like I didn't have them ready for either second half. But Texas A&M, I mean, I'm not going to undersell the feeling we had about having to play against Johnny Manziel. And I watched him rip SEC defenses. But it wasn't just him. Coach Sumlin's already mentioned Mike Evans. Oh, my gosh. What about him that day, But that season. And then I looked at those offensive linemen, and I was kind of glad we weren't playing in the day outside because they probably would have blocked the sunshine. They were that big. And so this whole, as a coach, a head coach, I didn't want to overplay that too much to our team. And you always wonder about your preparation for a bowl game. It's different than any other prep you have. I was so proud of our team playing so well early, not just on offense, defense as well. And I knew at that moment, minimally, we had an opportunity to win an epic football game in the history of Duke football. I mean, for the entire history. And so as the game went on, and you're seeing this great A&M team fight back and punch back, and then we would fight back some and punch back. And as Coach said, even right to the end, our team is fighting to find a way to have more points on the scoreboard than they did. So I did have a sense of the importance of it, minimally from the perspective of our program, but certainly, where I'm from and growing up, Peach Bowls, I know it was the Chick-Fil-A Bowl then. I've seen a lot of classic Peach Bowl games, and I coached in a Peach Bowl game in Fulton County Stadium. Okay, let's go way back.
Yeah.
In the 80s. And so that alone was epic for me, to be in Atlanta and playing in that kind of atmosphere. And what a game. If you didn't care who won, you got your money's worth for sure. Regardless, right?
No doubt, 100%. Talk a little bit about your bowl week experience being here in the bowl game that year. What do you guys remember? What sticks out in your minds about the stuff that you did here in Atlanta off the field, all before the game? Coach Sumlin, anything stand out in your mind about that bowl week experience?
Yeah, the city of Atlanta. It just start there. Just welcoming the people, the organization. Players went on and on about the food. Just everything was first class. And I had an opportunity. I actually played in the Peach Bowl in '84 against Virginia, and I was at Purdue. So I was looking forward to getting back there, and from where we were, just joining the SEC. Obviously, we hadn't, a lot of our guys being from Texas and maybe in Louisiana, had not experienced the city, and really, really enjoyed our time there. I thought the organization, the prep, the travel, everything was first class in how things were done. And I know our players had a wonderful time. And you know, the whole production piece, you know, with how many eyeballs were on that game, but in the second half, or I'm sorry, Coach Cutcliffe, I was hoping they didn't watch the first half, but I know they did. It was just a wonderful experience for us.
Yeah. Coach Cut, what about you? What do you remember about that bowl week experience leading up to that game?
Well, first of all, your all's organization and your ability to communicate and run the week, you know, the volunteers that were there, drivers or whatever I mean, it was first class. But two things stuck out for me for our players. One was trip to Children's Hospital. That was moving and awesome and memorable. You know, we're using the term memorable about this game. That was memorable. And I remember players' comments, beautiful. And then Wheat Baptist Church was truly amazing. It was moving. And Dr. Vivian, I grew up in the era where he was working with Dr. King. Okay. And Dr. Vivian got in front of our team and made a presentation that was phenomenal. I was literally on the edge of my seat. He even brought some tears to my eyes. And then I loved this. I'm going to tell this story because it's worth telling. We had a young, kind of uppity freshman, okay? And Dr. Vivian is talking about all the progress made by Dr. King and his team and just the era of the civil rights movement. And I couldn't believe it, and his teammates couldn't believe it. But he asked for questions, and out of this young man's mouth came, well, how do you know what you did worked? And I was getting ready to crawl over the pew and grab hold of him. I hate to admit that. Y'all can fire me now. That's where I was headed. And I didn't have to do anything. You know what Dr. Vivian said? He said, you're sitting here, aren't you? Young man, you hear me? You're sitting here. You go to Duke University? Do I need to say anything else? And he said it just like that. And I wanted to get up and dance. That was such a beautiful response. And I realized at that point in time, those men, and like I said, I grew up in Alabama. I grew up in all of this. Those men were so capable. He didn't need my help that day. How arrogant could I be to think he needed my help? It was a thing of beauty, and it'll be something that I will carry to my grave. I will remember that for all time. It was absolutely awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that, Coach. Coach Sumlin, did you have any memories of that trip to the Martin Luther King Center and what that meant to you and your team?
Yes. Well, it was really, you know, it was touching and moving, you know, and I think it really grounded our program. I think you know, there were a lot of comments from coaches and players about you know, the things that David just touched on. I mean, I think that you know, certain times, as I know, as he touched on, a number of players just talked about how they have had or were taking some things for granted. But you know, Dr. Vivian just put things in perspective, and I think it was brought some realization to a number of players, and just how lucky they were and are in the situation that they were in, and to not take that for granted, and to understand the history that's allowed the opportunities that they had, and the same with Children's Hospital. We were there, and I can honestly remember one of the volunteers saying, "Hey, coach, you got this and this. We got time, practice, and here's the schedule." And we ran overtime. I once those guys got in there and around those kids and their families and everything else, I think you see a different side of your football team, and it's a good side. I mean, it's a side where that whole week of preparation and the fun, but the realization that there's more to life than a football game, and the perspective that really, and I couldn't agree with Coach Cutcliffe more. I think those two events really brought to the forefront, what young people experience, number one, during this bowl game, and then it gives them some perspective as to, number one, what fortune they have being able to play this game, and the health that they have, and number two, the perspective of history, and what has allowed really this type of competition to thrive. And as I said, the children's hospital experience was one that went overtime for us, and it was worth pushing back practice, and just having guys being able to be a part of that, and take pride in it, and not having to orchestrate that, really, I think it showed a lot about where values are, and really reinforcing that type of those type of values for our young guys.
Yeah, well said, Coach. All right, we got a few minutes. I know we're going a couple minutes long, but this has been just a great time. And coaches, again, appreciate your perspective on all this. Coach Cut, back to you for your comments. 2013 was the year that you were awarded the Dodd Trophy Coach of the Year Award, which our organization also runs. And the only time in our history that we've had the opportunity to award that trophy to a coach that was actually in our game and was there that week. Talk a little bit about winning the Dodd Trophy and what that meant to you.
Well, I knew a lot about Coach Dodd from a lot of different perspectives, from Coach Bryant and the respect Coach Bryant had for Coach Dodd. I knew it from the Tennessee perspective. A lot of people don't remember Coach Dodd's connection to General Neyland. And so I talked to people that were around there in that era, and I knew everything that Bobby Dodd stood for, both on and off the field. And that award, not to steal from the SEC, but it just means more. Yes, a successful season and a successful coach, but more, you're held to a higher standard. And since that time, I have celebrated all of the Dodd winners, and I've tried to go back when I could, and I'm going to be at your all's game this year, and it's kind of an amazing fraternity. And it's interesting because Coach Paterno and Coach Dooley were former winners, and you know what? Barbara Dooley and Sue Paterno will be there. That's how meaningful the award is. And my wife Karen and I cannot wait to hug their necks and to spend that time. So, my mother taught me a long time ago, there's a difference between success and achievement. And success, most awards, I didn't make All-State one year as a high school player, and I was mad. And she said, you're ridiculous. That's somebody else's opinion is success. Achievement, she said, if you've done everything in your power to be the best you can be, And I said, I think so. She said, well, then be satisfied with achievement. That's what achievement is. And I think the Bobby Dodd Award has been about achievement, about somebody that is absolutely giving their best every day. And, that's what we're all called to do as coaches. So I think Coach Dodd did that. And I think Sue understood that. I think Barbara Dooley understood that. I can't wait to see them. Can't wait to see you guys there. I love being at football games where I don't have any pressure. So it's all good for me. And we will enjoy the time.
Very good. Appreciate you saying that, Coach. All right, we got time for a few questions. Let's go first to Steve Wiseman. Go ahead, Steve.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate you setting this up for us. Cut, how you doing? It's good to see your face
Good,
again.
Steve. How you doing?
I am well, thank you.
Good.
I wanted to try to kind of tie this together with kind of what's going on now with, Duke's on a bowl winning streak right now that you started, with the Pinstripe Bowl. At the time of this game, you guys hadn't won a bowl since the Cotton Bowl in '61 as a program. And you had these close losses in Charlotte the year before, this game in Atlanta, and the next year in Sun Bowl before you won the Pinstripe. I'm just curious how these three losses, and this one in particular, these tough losses, kind of helped the team galvanize to finally get over the hump, and it meant the Pinstripe Bowl meant so much more because you've been through that. Well,
Merry Christmas to you too. You're trying to give me a Merry Christmas with these memories of these tough losses, but that's the process. We were a process at Duke. You mentioned 1961. That wasn't just yesterday. Fortunately, I was able to meet some of those players on that team. And I think when things are hard, and it's hard to lose close games. This is another Francis Cutcliffe. One time I was complaining about, I lost my dad. And so my mom was, there when I was in high school. And I said something about something being hard. She said, what'd you just say? And I said, this is going to be too hard. She said, when somebody tells you something's getting ready to be hard, you should get excited. You're getting ready to get better. And I relayed that through those teams. They got us there. They put us in position to win. I could have done my job better. And I'm sincere when I say that. I could have, in close games, coaches become a factor. And that one in Charlotte, I'm still kicking myself. And Travis Kelce and I are good friends, and he was the one that scored that late touchdown, and I had turned him down at Tennessee, and I knew he was just out there to get me, and but oh my goodness, we got better. And if you're not getting better in those circumstances, something's wrong with you. And we became a better football program. We got hungrier.
Very good. All right. I think we've got Travis back. Travis, go ahead with your question.
Yes, good afternoon, y'all, and thanks for doing this. Y'all answered a whole lot of the questions I had in the presentation, so that was great. So allow me one slightly tangential. I know both of y'all coached against Mike Elko. Just your impressions of him as a head coach and what it's like to go against him.
Coach Sumlin, let's start with you, please.
No, I think that Mike is one heck of a football coach. Whether it was mainly as a D coordinator when I've seen him, but as a head coach, obviously the job that he did at Duke was outstanding. I believe I didn't follow it that close, but I watched a lot of tape. When you get down to your second and third quarterback and you're still competing at that level, that there's coaching involved in that, and really a really high level of coaching and the way he operates, a really down to earth human being, a guy that communicates very, very well with players, with staff. Knows what he wants and goes about it in a very business-like manner. And I was not shocked at all in his transition from coordinator to head coach and being successful, and just the way he operates and how he does business. So I would look for that to continue, to be honest with you, just because of The way he works at it, not just on the field but off the field and recruiting. Don't have nothing but good things to say about Mike Elko.
Yep. Coach Cut, what about you?
Yeah, I can give two perspectives. I'll give you the one as a defensive coordinator. We coached against him at Wake, we coached against him at Notre Dame. And the way I've always graded defensive coaches, excuse me, got to take a sip of water. The way I grade defensive coaches is a lot of people can tell or coach players how or what to do. The ones that I look for is when I know players why they're doing something. They adjust better. They buy into all of the little things better. I thought Mike Elko was in that rare breed, probably well less than 10 in my long career of defensive coordinators that I thought did a great job of teaching them why. I think they did that as a head coach. I went out this morning and they're in Birmingham and watched them practice this morning, knowing so many of those young people and true potatoes to enter them, but most of the same coaches. And I saw exactly what I thought I would see from looking at him as a head coaching perspective. The energy, the effort, the organization on the practice field, the buy-in of the players was all there. Success isn't an accident. It becomes a matter of practice habits over a long period of time. And I saw those, and I looked closely for them this morning. I spoke to the team briefly before they started. I greeted a lot of them off the bus, but it was more fun to watch them practice football. And that's a tribute to Coach Elko and his staff and what they've done.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kevin. Oh, good to see you again, and Merry Christmas to y'all.
Good to see you, Travis.
All right. Well, everyone, I don't see any other questions in the queue right now. So I apologize again. I know we ran a little bit over time there, but Coach Cut, Coach Sumlin, again, can't thank you guys enough for taking the time for this. This was a special time for us. And I know personally, I really enjoyed getting to talk with you guys again and talk about this game and your experience here. It is certainly our honor and privilege to have been able to host each of your programs and two of the finest quality coaches that we've ever had. So thank you very much again. Coach Sumlin, good luck in your bowl game. I know you got to get back to work, get that prep going. And Coach Cut, looking forward to seeing you back here in Atlanta here in about a week.
Look forward to that, Kevin. All the very best to you, and just keep being. I love to listen to your wisdom and who you are as a coach. If I'm gonna lose somebody in a close game, Kevin Sumlin, I'm okay with. So.
Well, David, I have a world of respect for you, and we go back a long way, and likewise, it's a heck of a football game, but over life, it's one of those things. You're one of the guys I'm proud to call friend and have known a long time, and have always had the utmost respect for you, and Merry Christmas to everybody. And
absolutely.
I got to get back to work now, believe it or not.
I go to work, man.
All right.
Everybody get back to work.